This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is Not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit, Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
That's right, baby. This is the King of Counter, the God of Graps, the show, CJ Evans, and I'm coming to you live right now from Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the show, CJ Evans.
That's right, baby. I'm so thankful to be here. Thank you for taking the time to have me on today. I've been looking forward to it all week.
Absolutely. We've been looking forward to it as well. And where can people look forward to seeing the show next, event-wise?
Man, I'm telling you what, I'm moving around so much. Right now, I'm currently wrestling for like 5-6 different promotions. The best way to keep up with all my upcoming events is to follow me on social media at CJ Evans Pro. And that's basically on every platform. I have Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. All of them are the same at, which is CJ Evans Pro. I post all the flyers for all the shows that I'm going to be at. And I post also, pictures and updates and all kind of cool stuff that you can see, like little clips of my matches, merch that I have coming out. But the biggest thing that I have coming up currently is going to be this coming Friday. I'll be showing up at Boxcar in Greensboro, North Carolina for Firestar Pro Wrestling. I'm going to be in a triple threat match that night for the number one contendership for the Southeastern Championship, which is a huge blessing for me because Firestar Pro Wrestling has done a lot for me, and I'm really looking forward to being on this event. So if this comes out in time, by all means, come on out to Boxcar on the 20th and check me out. If not, like I said, follow me on social media. All my upcoming posters will be posted on there, and you can catch me somewhere, I'm sure, in your area.
And where can we find merchandise?
So merchandise-wise, I have obviously, if you come up to me at a show that I'm on, I'll have my merch table. I have all my stuff, which I have stickers, koozies, T-shirts, mystery bags. I have all kind of stuff that I sell. Also, if you don't catch me at a show, you can always message me on my Facebook page, and I will ship it out to you. Now, granted, if I have to ship it, will be a little bit more, just because obviously I have to cover shipping as well. But definitely can hit me up on social media or just come up to me. I like it better when people come up to me at shows because I love to see the person that's buying my stuff so I can kind of get that connection with them, because I try to make that connection with all the people that come out and spend their money to support me. So by all means, if you're able to come out to a show, come out to a show. If not, you can always message me on social media and I'll definitely get back to you as soon as possible.
Perfect. And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Alright, let's get into it. Let's start with, you was actually in a 2 out of 3 falls match against a wrestler, I believe I'm pronouncing this correct, Piraino?
Yes, Piraino.
Obviously 2 out of 3 falls matches, not something you see on the indies every day. So what was that experience like, being in that type of match?
Well, the best way I can explain it is, honestly, you're 100% right. It's not a type of match that you see on the indies a whole lot, because I don't feel like a lot of people have that kind of drive to get that caliber of match going. I mean, if you do a 2 out of 3 falls or you do an Iron Man, you really have to build up to that and have like a lot of this whole big thing with the person you're doing this match with in order for people to want to see that match. And the thing with Piraino was that it started when I initially came to Firestar. And I walked in the door, and majority of the locker room, everybody was good. You know, everybody was good to me. People treated me right. It was a great time. Piraino was one of the first guys that I wrestled on an actual show for Firestar. And when I did, me and him had our first match. I ended up beating him. And, you know, I thought that was going to be the end of it. It's like, okay, that's, you know, it was a good match, had a good time, roll on out. Well, next thing I know, you know, we have another event come up later on, and, you know, Piraino wants a rematch. So I'm like, well, you know, sure, I'll give a rematch to you. Well, of course, he ends up cheating. He beats me. Okay, so now I've won a match, he's won a match, but when I won mine, I didn't have to use no kind of underhanded tactics. You know what I mean?
But
because like I don't have to do that. So you know, now we're 1-1, and then we go on up to our third match. Third match we have, they put us in a tag match. So it's me and a buddy of mine who also wrestles at Firestar versus Piraino and Drew Hood. And that was an experience. You know, anytime that you're able to share the ring with Drew Hood, it's a great time. He's great at what he does. I don't always, you know, understand his tactics because, I mean, he can cheat sometimes, but he is very charismatic. People know who he is, and I respect the hell out of him. So definitely, you know, was looking forward to that match. We go in the match. Next thing I know, me and Piraino were fighting on the outside, and we end up losing the match, me and my partner, because once again, me and Piraino are outside brawling on the outside, and here comes, you know, Drew Hood pins my partner. They win. Well, dang, now we're down. Now I beat him once. He's beat me once. Then you have the tag match. So then I'm like, all right, look, I'm putting this to rest. We're going to have this match. We're going to do this last match. We're going to determine who is the winner of like this little feud that we have going on for the last like 2-3 months. Well, we go out there, have a great match. Like, crowd's loving it. You know, we're doing all the crazy stuff. Next thing you know, we go out of the ring, we start fighting on the outside of the ring, and I just couldn't get in the ring in time. Me or Piraino, either one could. So next thing I know, we're both outside the ring, and, you know, the ref calls for a double count out. So that doesn't really do anything for anybody because now it's just a tie. So now it's like I've won one, he's won one. The tag match doesn't really matter because he didn't beat me, but my team did technically lose. Then you have the count out from both of us. So now that's basically a draw. So we talked to the promoter. Promoter's like, hey, we're going to put this in a 2 out of 3 falls match. This is going to finish this. This is going to end this feud. You know, we're going to get a definite winner in this match. So we basically agreed both to this 2 out of 3 falls match to determine who is the better wrestler, basically. And at the end of the night, I ended up walking away with the win.
Hell yeah. And what did it kind of mean to you? Because, like you said, not a lot of people can do 2 out of 3 falls matches. To be kind of trusted to have that type of match.
Well, you know, to be 100% honest with you, the thing that meant the most to me is I've always been a very competitive person. And I've always been the person that wants to be the best because I push myself so hard. And I look at this match and I say, man, it's really hard to get people invested in a 2 out of 3 falls match on the indies. But then I take it into account of let's push this to the caliber of making them invested. You know, like everybody might not be invested because of it being on the indies, but I like to take a challenge. I like to prove people wrong, and I like to defy the odds. So I took that challenge on and was like, look, when the promoter was like, we need to come up with this match, it's going to be the end of this, we got to finish this. I was the one that recommended. I said, hey, let's do a 2 out of 3 falls match. And, you know, I knew taking that on that was going to be a difficult job, but I feel like that we were able to pay it off in a way that the crowd was happy. They were definitely invested during the match. I went back and watched the footage of it. Everybody was like, you know, there were people standing up, cheering, jumping up and down. It was a great time. So the feeling that it gave me was definitely an accomplishment. It made me feel as though that even though most of the time people won't get invested in that type of match, I defied the odds, proved them wrong, and showed them a reason why I am the show and why this is where I belong.
Where does that come from? To say, okay, well, maybe people don't necessarily get invested into these types of matches all that often, but I'm going to make them get invested. Where does that mentality come from?
Well, when I first started wrestling, I initially started watching wrestling when I was 5 years old. And then I've been a fan since then. Because at the end of the day, all of us are fans at heart. I mean, everybody who wrestles has watched wrestling at some point in their life. So when I started out watching it, I just remember the feeling that it gave me of like, oh man, these guys are so cool. It's like real life superheroes. That's the way that I felt about it. And I know that it's hard for people, like on the indie scene, a lot of wrestling fans are kind of programmed to two different calibers. You either have the fans that are like wrestling fans, that they just love wrestling and they don't really care what you're doing as long as you're wrestling. But then you also have the type of fans that if you're not doing something constantly, like, you have your old school fans and your new school fans. The best way I can really compare those two is like WWE and AEW. It's like WWE has more storytelling. AEW has more like back-to-back spots of wrestling, like somebody's doing something, and that's kind of how indie fans are. But the problem is that indie fans, they're programmed to know what wrestling is, but they don't always understand what wrestling is. They know what it is because they know what you're doing, but sometimes they have to understand why this is taking place. And that's where it becomes an issue of trying to make somebody invested in a match, because somebody's going to look at that 2 out of 3 falls and say, well, that's just a regular match with an extra pin or submission in it. But that wasn't the case. The real mentality of it is that he had beat me once, I had beat him once, we had a draw. So now this was the final definite win of like, okay, who is going to walk away as the victor in this whole rivalry, basically.
Right, you had a story attached to it.
Yeah, and anytime you can give that emotional investment of a story with who you're wrestling, the fans are always going to love it more than just seeing 2 random people fight. Because like I can give you easy examples of like, you look at somebody and say, okay, you look at that match that Adam Page and Will Ospreay had. 2 phenomenal wrestlers put on a phenomenal match, and they had a little bit of a story built up to it. But then if you look at this whole feud they got going on with John Cena turning heel on WWE, that's a story that's been building for a year. And now look at how invested people are in John Cena and everything he's saying. Now, granted, yes, he is John Cena, but at the same time, the emotional investment is what keeps people's attention. And that's what I look for in my matches. I want people to have that emotional investment to me and to what I do, so that way they know, oh, this guy is, I got to watch this guy's match because he's the one that is, he's the top, he's the show, he's the best guy. And that's just how I push myself to try to be.
Now, when it comes to, wrestling training, you started at training at 13, 14 years old.
Yes.
Then you took a 4-year break from pro wrestling and then started back up at 18. I rarely ever talk about the training process, but I am just curious, like, was it like riding a bike, so to speak, or did you have to kind of relearn what you already knew?
So the best way I can explain it is, here's the full details of the training situation. I first started training when I was 13 or 14 years old. I got hurt, and I had to have surgery on my leg. And after I got hurt, I was out of wrestling for a few years to try to get my body back right, because I think I pushed myself too hard. My body wouldn't hold up. And so I went back to wrestling, like you said, around 18, 19 years old, and I was kind of doing like spot training here and there until finally I found a place that I could train continuously, which was at the 2-6 Wrestling Academy. 2-6 Wrestling Academy. I trained there for, a while, and then I moved on from there to Firestar, and then now I've been at Firestar, and I just recently graduated their program. Now, granted, let me preface this by saying, just because you're wrestling on shows does not mean you should stop training, because I feel like that you always should train because you can always get better.
Right.
And just because you finish a training school does not mean that you're finished learning. To answer your question in regards to the training process, in similar ways, it was like riding a bike. It was ways of like, I knew how to bump, I knew how to run the ropes, I knew how to the basics of the basics. But the thing that I had the hardest time with was, in the business we call it ring rust. And basically what that is that when you have to leave wrestling for an extended period of time and you come back, basically ring rust is like you're not as crisp as you used to be. Your moves are not as clean as they used to be, and your body is not used to taking that kind of a beating. So then when you get out there and you train for the next couple weeks, it kind of feels like you started over, because like wrestling on a regular basis like I am now, my body hurts. But I can usually, I can have a show Saturday night. I'll wake up Sunday, my body will hurt. But then by Tuesday, I'll still be sore, but I'll be able to go to training, knock it off, and be fine. But when you go in your situation like that, and you take several months off or several years off, you get back to it. Now it's like you take that bump after 5 years off or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, it feels like you started over, because now all that callus that you build up and your body being used to it isn't used to it anymore. So you basically have to restart over all that. But the wrestling itself, the best way I can explain that is, depending on who your trainer is going to train you different ways. And different trainers focus on different aspects, because every trainer I've ever had has taught me something different that helped me be who I am today and helped me become the type of wrestler that I am. So when it comes to is it like riding a bike? The basics, yes. But when it comes to the actual wrestling part of it, it kind of varies on who's teaching it.
I gotcha. Alright. Well, let's talk about your group, your faction, Infamous. Tell us about your relationship with Jak Tatum, CC Young, and I believe Jared Morton just joined the group not too long ago as well.
Yes, sir. So Infamous originally started when, let me backpedal. This one's kind of a funny story. So Jak Tatum is one of my best friends. Jak Tatum has been one of my favorite people in wrestling for a long time. When I started wrestling on shows continuously, more than just like a kind of, doing a show once or twice a month. Once I started wrestling on a regular basis, I started getting booked on more and more shows that Jak was on. And next thing I know, one night at ACW, Jak and me get put in a match against each other. We go out there, we have a great match, have a great time. And then next, me and Jak both just kind of hit it off. And like after the show was over, me and him was talking, and he was just like, me and him just started hanging out, talking, pitching ideas to each other. We just became really good friends because we had a lot of the same views of wrestling, like where we wanted to go, what we wanted to be, And then one day, Jak was booked on a show. He was supposed to team with somebody else, and his tag partner canceled. So then he called me and was like, hey, my tag partner canceled for this show. And I told him, I said, well, hey, dude, I'm available. If you get with the promoter, I can show up. We can tag that night, and I'll fill that spot for you. And he was like, bet. Contacts the promoter. Promoter was okay with it. Worked out a deal. I started tagging with Jak, and that's when Infamous initially started. It initially started with me and Jak Tatum. Well, of course, Jak Tatum and CC Young are dating. Well, me and CC are also good friends, because initially when I started training at 2-6, that's where I met CC. Next thing I know, Jak showed up. He started training there. Me and him, once again, me and him being as good of friends as we are, we started training all together, me, her, and him, learning different stuff. And with her and him dating, that's when they implemented her into the faction and was like, hey, now we're going to be this three group of like, now it's kind of like the Hardy Boyz with Lita kind of thing, and I was like, bet. Once again, perfectly okay with it, because CC's a great friend of mine, Jak's a great friend of mine. So then we started doing Infamous like that. Well, we were getting bookings here and there that some people wanted to book Jak as the group, some people wanted to book him by himself. Same thing for me, same thing for CC. Well, then you fast forward until we get into Newborn. Newborn starts up, they start running shows, and he tells me, he says, well, hey, I like your singles stuff, but I'm needing to build a tag division. Do you have a tag partner? And I said, yeah, me and Jack tag. And he was like, no way. And I was like, yeah, sent him some footage. He loved it. He was like, all right, I want to run Infamous at Newborn. All right, no problem. So then I started doing Infamous at Newborn, and he brought in me, Jack, and Cece to all start doing stuff there. Well, then next thing you know, he's like, well, hey, how do you feel about adding Jared Martin to the group? I had no issue with that because Jack helped train Jared, like, in a lot of the stuff he knows. And once again, Jared is really good friends with me and really good friends with Jack. So then they were like, well, how would you feel about adding Jared to the group? Absolutely. Let's make it a whole faction. Let's run this like Evolution or something. You know, let's do this whole cool vibe. And next thing you know, once we started running that, other companies started seeing all that we were doing, and they wanted to bring us in. So now everybody's hitting us up saying, hey, like, you know, very few companies are wanting to book just one of us by ourselves. Most companies are wanting us to come in as a group because we all ride together. You know, so like you're basically getting a whole deal because you're getting me, Jack, Jared, and Cece. So now you have an option to do singles, you can do tag, you can do trios, you can do 4-man, or you can do mixed tag with a guy and a girl if you need to. I mean, so you basically can do anything you need, and it helps promoters book easier because it makes sense. So that's kind of how Infamous started. And obviously, like I said, we're all really tight, so we look out for each other.
Hell yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Cece is your cousin as well, no?
Yes. Yes, she is my cousin in the wrestling world.
Oh, in the
So
wrestling.
she is,
In the wrestling
yes.
world.
Yeah, in the wrestling world, she is my cousin.
Okay. Well, that being said, what is a pet peeve about Jack, CC, and Jared that you just don't understand?
I'll be honest with you, man. I don't have a whole lot of issues with them for the most part. I mean, I would say the hardest thing, and it's not even really a them problem. It's not like it's not their fault. It's more so trying to just get all of our schedules lined up together, because there are some companies that want to book just them, and then there's some companies that want to book just me or just Jared or whoever. And sometimes it's like we'll get a company reach out to us and be like, hey, are you available these dates? And we might all four only be available for one or two of them because somebody's already booked somewhere else. But that's not really a pet peeve as much as it's just like unfortunate. You know, it's more of one of the things is like, dang, I wish we could make that happen. Overall, I don't really have any pet peeves with them because they're, you know, like I said, I mean, we've been friends for years and we get along so well. I mean, we hang out in wrestling and outside of wrestling. So we're not just wrestling friends, we're real life friends as well.
Was tag team, because obviously you and Jack are a proper tag team, was tag team wrestling on your radar, or was it something that just kind of happened more organically for you?
Honestly, it was organic. When I first got into wrestling, I never really cared about tag wrestling. Like, not that I don't like it. I just, when I started wrestling, I never really saw myself as a tag team guy. I always saw myself as a singles competitor trying to go after, you know, doing these like single things, going for the main title or the mid-card title. I was never really a big tag guy. But then the night that I knew from wrestling Jack prior that me and him had a lot of chemistry in the ring. And when I had the opportunity, when his tag partner canceled on him that night and I filled in for him, I knew instantly the first tag match we had that there was something there. And I could just tell that me and him, it's like we were on each other's wavelength. It's like we were reading each other's mind without having to say anything. And as soon as I noticed that, I was like, okay, this doesn't happen all the time. And when it does, you need to capitalize on it. So even though I didn't plan on doing a lot of tag stuff, it definitely happened organically. And I'm glad that it did, because it helps me be more perverse in every aspect of wrestling. I don't want to be a one-trick pony that I'm only good at one thing. I like to be good at multiple things.
You want to be a multiple trick pony.
Exactly. I want to be able to, if you throw me in a multi-man, a singles, a tag, a six-man, a fatal four-way, a triple threat, whatever you need, I want to be able to go out there and put on the best show possible. So that way, you get your money's worth out of what I do, and I show that I am the best at what I do, basically.
And you did win tag team gold with Jak as well. What did that mean to you to win? Saying, okay, we might have something here as a tag team, to having that actually confirmed by winning gold.
So winning the tag belts with Jak, it was a moment of it's almost like the same moment that it's kind of like the same feeling I had when I won my first singles title, because people say that it's just a belt, and it is just a belt, but at the same time, it's what the belt means. And that belt means that you are so good at your job that you basically are the poster boy for this company. That means that you are the guy that is one of the top talents on this show. And when I was able to go out there with my best friend and win this championship, it really meant a lot to me to show, wrestling has gave me so much. And it was kind of like one of those moments of when I won my first singles title, I felt like I was on top of the world. I felt like, I'm the big dude here. I've worked so hard, I've grinded so much, and now I'm finally here. I finally got this opportunity and finally walk away with this championship, because it had always been a dream to win a title. And then when I won tag team titles with Jak, I felt like the same way, but it was only different in the aspect of I can't believe that I'm out here doing all that I want to do with my life with my best friend, and then being as successful as I am doing what I love to do. It was a realization moment of it was amazing. It just felt really great.
Well, another thing about winning your first title compared to the tag team titles was that you didn't actually know you was going to win your first title until the 3 count, no?
I didn't. I had no idea. That was honest to God. I was told we were going to have a triple threat match for my first singles title, and I went out there. I pinned the guy. He didn't kick out. I had no clue that I was supposed to win that championship. It was completely it was not planned for me to if it was planned, it was never told to me. I was under the assumption I was losing. So I went out there, and when I won, my first thought was, oh God, I hurt somebody. Come to find out, he wasn't severely hurt. It's just they were all in the back, trying to give me that big win. And so that moment, if you actually ever see the footage of me winning it, I actually all the emotion that you see on my face is completely genuine. There's nothing fake or nothing unbelievable about it. Everything you see is completely honest to God truth, because I had no idea that was happening.
I imagine it's a very mixed bag of emotions, because you think, oh, did I do something wrong? Did this get botched? But then, I have gold. I won a title.
And that's kind of what happened for me, is that was the thing that really, I tell people all the time, everything in wrestling that I've done, if you look at everything I've done in wrestling, majority of what I've done has been just by being in the right place at the right time. Now, granted, am I calling it luck? No, there is luck involved, but if I didn't work my ass off the way that I do in wrestling, then it would not have put me in those situations to get those opportunities. So it definitely was a moment of, oh, I messed up bad. This dude's hurt. They're I'm about to get my ass chewed. And then in reality, I get back there and they're like, nah, man, this is your moment. We wanted you to have it. And I'm like, oh, well, I wish somebody would have told me. And they were just like, well, that would have took the believability out of it. And I'm like, well, yeah, I definitely believed it. Definitely believed it.
Well, I feel like this is a hard to believe moment that actually happened. Matt Hardy actually posted a picture on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, with you in the picture as well.
Yes.
What was that like?
So, once again, that was one of those moments of being in the right place at the right time. I am friends with Marty Garner, also known as in the wrestling world as Champagne. Champagne is, a big guy on the indies. He's done a lot on the indies. He did a lot of stuff for, WWE. And he's actually the guy, if you watch the video of Triple H giving the pedigree and the dude lands on his head up, like straight up and down, that was Champagne. That was Marty. And Marty was one of the first bigger people that I wrestled in the wrestling world that I got to know outside of just wrestling. Like, I actually got to meet him, talk to him, learn a lot about how to wrestle more, how to be better. I picked his brain because, once again, he's been wrestling for so many years. He's got a lot of knowledge. And basically what happened was I was booked at a show in the fairgrounds in Carthage, North Carolina. And in case you didn't know, in North Carolina at the fairgrounds, that's where the Hardys used to wrestle at. Back in the day when they first started their whole Omega stuff, they used to do a lot of stuff in Carthage at the fairgrounds. And, anytime I have an opportunity to wrestle at that event, I always jump on it because in my mind, I'm paying homage to the Hardy Boyz because it's like I'm doing the same thing they did. They wrestled there, I wrestle there,
Oh, yeah.
So I went to do a show that night, and I remember it was something going on where me and Marty were wrestling, and I think we were wrestling, and then somebody came out there, and it's like the bad guys jumped us, and then another good guy came out there and helped us, and then like we run all the bad guys out, got all them out of the ring, and we were like posing in the ring. And next thing I know, we're all posing, pictures are being taken and stuff. Next thing I know, I go to the back to the locker room, and Marty's like, "Oh yeah, man, forgot to tell you, Matt's out there." I said, "Okay, Matt, who?" He's like, "Matt Hardy." Because if anybody doesn't know, Marty and the Hardy Boyz are really good friends. They grew up together. Marty used to wrestle in Omega with the Hardys. So like, anybody that knows him knows that he's tight with the Hardys. And I'm like, "You mean to tell me Matt Hardy just watched our match?" And he was like, "Yeah, I told him we was wrestling over here. He said he wasn't busy, so he came by." I said, "You're messing with me, dude." And he was like, "No, look." And he pulls out his phone, and sure as shit, there's Matt Hardy post a picture on Twitter of me and him in the ring with our arms up. And I'm like, "You mean to tell me that Matt Hardy posted on social media about me?" And he was like, "Yeah, you did a good job tonight, brother. Keep it up." And I'm just like flabbergasted because I'm sitting here like, I grew up watching you, dude. Like, I grew up watching the Hardy Boyz. I was a huge Hardy Boyz fan. So, like, to grow up watching them and then to go on Twitter and be like, they posted about me, that's insane. It was like I could not believe it. I felt like I was in a fantasy world.
It's crazy that he was in the crowd, and I mean, I would have felt like somebody would have seen him or, called it out.
I'm being honest with you. I had no idea he was there. I had no clue. I remember going out doing my entrance. I remember going out wrestling. I remember seeing the crowd. I remember talking to people in the crowd. I never saw him, but he had a picture. He had a picture, and it was up on on Twitter. So I know he saw me. I don't know where he was at, but maybe he had like a hat on or something, and I just didn't recognize him. I know sometimes they'll put like sunglasses and stuff on, and that way they don't get bugged by 100 people when they're out and about. But it really happened, and that's why I have that picture on social media to prove it. Because like anybody I tell that story to, they're like, "Nuh-uh." I'm like, "Look, man, here it is. Like, here's proof."
And he posted it to his social media. It's on X, on Matt Hardy's page.
Exactly. That's what blew my mind, because I'm like, this ain't just like some little bullcrap thing. Like, he posted it on his social media, like on his, and like the thousands and millions of followers that he has saw that. You know what I mean?
Right. But correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a similar experience with Jeff Hardy as well. After one of your matches, Jeff actually put you over to one of the promoters, no?
So the situation that you're talking about with Jeff, basically, there was a time where I've met Jeff on like 3 different occasions. The one that you're referring to was I had a match that I did at ACW, and I actually was out. I was at the show, but I wasn't able to wrestle because I had had surgery on my knee, and I was there doing a promo that night at the show, but I wasn't actually wrestling. And I remember Jeff walking in the locker room, and I'm like, what is going on? And apparently, once again, Marty was booked that night. They came out to support Marty. And so they show up in the locker room. They go around, shake everybody's hands, tell everybody, hey, what's up, to be respectful. Next thing I know, I tell him, I'm like, hey, he said, hey, buddy, you wrestling tonight? And I said, no, I'm healing this leg up. I just had my surgery and I'm on crutches, so I'm not able to wrestle yet, but I should be cleared here soon. And he was like, well, man, you got to take care of yourself first. He's like, but are you doing something tonight? And I said, yeah, I'm doing a promo. He said, well, bet, I'm going to go out. I'm going to be in the crowd. I'm going to listen to it. I said, I appreciate you. And then from what I heard, after I did my promo, I was told I didn't get to speak to Jeff again after I saw him in the locker room, but I did hear from other people that he had went to the promoter and he had went to Marty and told him, like, hey, your boy did really good on his promo tonight. He definitely had the crowd interested in what he was saying, and he did really good on the mic. So that meant a lot to me. And, like I said, I love those guys to death. Anytime that I get an opportunity to talk to them, they genuinely are really good people.
You mentioned getting injured. How did that happen?
So my left knee, I got hurt I specifically remember I was doing a sunset flip, and I went to go over the guy, and when I did the sunset flip, I didn't plant my left foot. And when I didn't plant my foot, my knee smacked the mat and kind of like contorted my leg.
Ooh.
And basically it tore the cartilage in my left knee. And I had to have surgery and have that piece of cartilage cut out because where the cartilage was tore, it wouldn't let me basically straighten my leg out. Like I couldn't straighten my leg out all the way. So it was making it difficult to like move around and do anything. I was able to finish the match, but shortly after that, I went to the doctor, and that's when they told me, like, yeah, you got tore cartilage. You're going to have surgery. And so I had to go through that. That was a great time.
It's always the simple things that you get injured on.
Every time. That's what I tell everybody. I say, I can go out here and do all this crazy stuff in the ring and all these street fights and all this other stuff, but the stuff that hurts me is, now, because, I've had 100 little, like, scratches, cuts, bruises. Like, that happens all the time. Just about every time you walk away from a match, you have some kind of, like, bruise or something afterwards. But them major injuries like that require surgery, it's always the simple stuff. It's always like, oh, you stepped wrong, or you pivoted wrong, or you landed wrong. And not to mention, I've done 100,000 sunset flips. And that one time, I just didn't plant my foot. I don't know why. I just didn't plant my foot. Next thing you know, when it hit, I just felt my leg just sharp pain. And I was like, what? And couldn't really stand up. I was able to finish the match. And after I finished it, I went to the back. My knee was already swole up. And there you go. That's a wrap.
I think Seth Rollins got injured the same way, doing a sunset flip to Kane, I believe.
I think his was he did off the turnbuckle. I think he like went over his back on the turnbuckle, and like he did that with his knee, when he landed on his leg, his like knee bent inward.
Yeah. How did that affect getting injured? How did that kind of affect your mentality, towards pro wrestling? With that extended time of not being able to wrestle.
So the first little bit, I was very depressed, and I was very worried because I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to wrestle again. And I was very nervous to, like, even if I am able to wrestle, I've told myself a long time ago, like, I'm going to wrestle until the wheels fall off. But if I get to the point where I can't keep up anymore, then it's time for me to step away. If it gets to the point where I can't, like, if I go out there and I can't do my matches the way I want to do them, then it's time for me to back out. And I was really nervous. That's where I was worried. That's where I was at. I was depressed. I was upset. I felt like man, like now here my legs messed up, and even if I get healed up, I'm never going to be what I was. I'm never going to be able to get back to where I'm at, you know. And I was getting a lot of traction at the time that I hurt my leg. Like I was in the process of like starting with some new companies, and they were about to put me in like some storylines, and there was a lot going on, and I was really depressed. And then after I went to the doctor and he told me, he was like, hey, you know, you're going to have surgery, but this is a common sports injury. It's not career threatening. You will be able to go back to wrestling afterwards. You just have to go through the proper procedure of healing up, going through the rehab, the physical therapy, and you'll be back. And I was like, okay. So at that moment, once he told me it wasn't career threatening, I basically made a mental note to myself and I said, you're going to overcome this. You're going to push yourself. And at the time it was my girlfriend, but now it's my fiance. At the time she told me, look, you can't let this define who you are. You can't let this injury stop you from doing what you love to do, because if you truly quit and you don't wrestle anymore, you're going to regret it every day of your life. Because if there's one thing about CJ Evans, is that wrestling's in my blood. I love wrestling. I eat, sleep, live, and breathe wrestling. I go to sleep thinking about it. I wake up thinking about it. I think about it during the day. I think about it like all the time. It's all that's on my mind, whether it be ideas for me, ideas for what I want to study when I get home, ideas for what I need to do in training. And she told me, she was like, if you let this injury define you, then you're going to regret it every day of your life. And so at that moment, I told myself, I said, I'm not going to let that happen. And I pushed myself. I went and had the surgery. I came back stronger than when I left. The initial time afterwards, it was tough because my leg was definitely weaker when I first started back in the gym. And I had to do a lot of special physical therapy for it to get it back to where it needed to be. But once I got back in the rhythm of it and got it back to where it was on the level that it needed to be, I started pushing myself harder in the gym, strengthening up my legs. I started pushing myself harder in the ring to get better in, like, you know, as a wrestler and entertainer. And now I'm doing way more than I was before the knee injury. So it definitely was a mixture of emotions, but it worked its way to be the best outcome possible.
Now, you mentioned, you know, your fiance kind of helping you through that process. Does she understand pro wrestling, or is it just like something that, you know, she knows that you do, but she doesn't necessarily know what you do? You know
so she knows just about everything about the business that there is to know. I mean, she knows all the promoters that I work for. She knows all the places that I go. She knows most of the people on the cards that I'm wrestling on because she sees them time and time again. She's not a wrestler herself, but she did watch wrestling before me and her got together, so she already liked wrestling prior.
Okay.
Once we got together and she found out that I actually wrestled, she had never seen the backstage part of it, like all that goes into it. But she knows a lot. Like, she doesn't wrestle, but she definitely knows. You know, I talk to her about stuff like I talk to my wrestling buddies. Like, I tell her, I say, hey, what do you think about this new sequence? Hey, what do you think about this new idea for a spot? Hey, what do you think about this new idea for gear? What do you think about this idea for a logo? And she's very artistic. She's always been very artistic. So, like, she gives me her input and helps me with creativity and stuff like that.
Okay, so she gets it.
Yeah, she's definitely, she understands.
Okay. Well, another match that you had was with A1 Rob Killjoy. Obviously a well-known, well-respected name on the indies. What was it like wrestling Rob?
So, Rob, when I first met him, was initially, I was scared to death. Like, I was like, when I first met him, me and him weren't wrestling that night. I first met him at a show, and I was like, man, that guy's good. I was like, how the hell do you keep up with him in the ring? Like, he's just all over the place. Next thing I know, I end up getting told, like, oh, hey, you're wrestling Rob this day. And I was scared to death. I was like, not scared in the sense of like coward, but scared in the sense of like, I don't want to mess nothing up. This is a big opportunity for me, like, because, you know, like you said, he's very well known. He's everybody knows who Rob is. And Rob is also very transparent with people. So like, if you mess something up, he's going to let you know. You're going to know, hey, you screwed up here, here, and here. So I was instantly like, oh man, I'm a screw the bed on this, and it's just gonna be so bad. And we went out there, had a great match. Loved wrestling. It was a blast. The biggest thing I took away from wrestling Rob was that he showed me a part of wrestling that I didn't know I could do, and that's how to link my stuff together and make it make sense. I always was very bad about putting my stuff into wrestling and basically it being like this goes to this goes to this. But then when I wrestled Rob, he showed me that like, no, like you can format your stuff this way to where it makes it, you know, it's going to look better, it's going to mean more. He definitely showed me tips and tricks on how to be a better entertainer, not just to be a good wrestler.
And did he, what was his critique after the match?
His biggest critique to me actually was he said that I did very well listening and that I was very good in the ring at what I do. He just told me that I need to work on showing more fight back with my character and like putting myself over more as, you know, like what I am as the show. Like, you know, show who you are, show your personality, your characteristics. Don't just be like a generic, you know, wrestler 101. That was his biggest critique. And he also told me to slow down a little bit because I was, you know, I was going so fast that like, it's like I was doing stuff, but it's like we weren't registering the crowd. We weren't giving the crowd enough time to register what was going on. We were just going so fast. So he was like, you need to slow down a little bit, but you know, you definitely are, you know, you're it's not like you're making a bunch of mistakes out here. It's not like you're out here just screwing stuff up.
All right, so pretty good criticism.
Yeah, I mean, I've always, every person, when I tell people to watch my matches and get critiques from it, I always try to say like, hey, tell me what you like and what you dislike. That way I know what I need to improve on, but I also know what to keep. Because if I only know what I'm doing wrong, then I might end up changing something that I'm doing right because I'm trying to fix something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think it's time for that segment once again, and that is CJ's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Well, so when you say crazy and bizarre, do you mean crazy as in like something that was, you know, unexpected that nobody thought was supposed to happen? Or do you want something crazy as in like it's just one of those really funny stories that you're like, what the crap? Like, I can't believe this happened to you.
Let's go with both.
Okay. So I went to a show in Georgia, and it was this one was one of those moments of like, the best way I can put it is I went to do one of these moments of, you know, I was going out to these other shows trying to get booked on these other places, and I was headed to Georgia. We were doing a show in Georgia, and I remember I was in the car. It was me, Silver Fox, and Tungsten Red, and we're all riding together, and Cindy was there as well, which that's my fiance. We were all in the car together. We're riding to Georgia, and we're heading to this show. You know, we're in the car talking, having a good time, you know, yada, yada. We get to the show, and initially, I was supposed to be in like a multi-man match. And Fox was doing something in like a tournament. Tungsten was doing something in that tournament. And I was supposed to be in like some multi-man match. It was supposed to be like a fatal five-way or something. And you know, we get there, and the promoter pulls me off to the side, and he's like, hey, so I had too many cancellations from some people in that tournament. I'm going to need to fill those spots. So is there any way I can put you in this tournament instead of in that multi-man match? I said, sure, man, put me in whatever you need me to. You're the promoter. I'm just the worker. You know, what you need me to do, I'll do, and I'll do the best of my ability. He said, great, because I'm actually going to have you wrestle 3 times tonight.
Oh,
And I
wow.
said, 3 times? I was like, he's like, yeah, if you can. And I said, well, yeah, I definitely can. But like, I didn't have any idea that I was going to be wrestling 3 times. So like, I'm literally going and like, I do my match. They're having another match. While they're doing that match, I'm over here trying to like get situated, get everything together to go do the next match. So then it's like by the time I go out there for the second match, I'm still tired from the first match, still beat up. Go out there and then like so I ended up going into that tournament, went all the way through the tournament to the very end, and almost won it because I was the last match I wrestled was like the main match of the tournament, and I almost won it. Didn't win it, lost that one, but I still wrestled 3 times in the same night. So that's like one of those funny stories that's like I had no idea this was happening. So that's why I like to tell people when they say, oh, wrestling's fake. I'm like, dude, like you can call wrestling fake all day, but like you can't plan stuff. You can't plan stuff like that. Like I wrestled 3 times in the same night on a match in a different state that I didn't know anybody but the people I was in the car with. So like you can't do but so much. Like and that I was so thankful for that opportunity because like it taught me a lot and it showed me like, hey, you need to like work on your cardio a little bit more in the gym because like who knows when you're going to show up to a show and say, hey, we need you to wrestle X amount of time. So that was one of those funny stories. Another story that stands out to me is this one is wrestling related. It wasn't wrestling for me. It was wrestling for somebody else. But I actually, and I tell this story to people because they think I'm crazy, but I tell them because it really happened. But I went to a AEW show one night to support one of my friends, and he was supposed to be doing like some security stuff for the AEW people. I thought maybe he would get a dark match, so I went to go watch the dark match if he had one. They ended up not giving him a dark match, but they put him on as security, so I still got to see him. So I texted him. I'm like, hey buddy, I'm here. If you want to grab something to eat after the show, just let me know. And he was like, bet, I'll see you there. Okay, no problem. So I go to meet him at Wendy's after the show's over. And once again, this person that I'm talking about is Marty. Marty was, doing the stuff that night. And Marty shows up. He's sitting there talking to me. Next thing I know, here comes Matt and Jeff pull up in the Wendy's parking lot at like 11:30 at night after AEW's already over with, and he's like, oh yeah, I invited them to see if they wanted to come too. And I'm like, Marty, you just make this out like we just hanging out, you're making it out like we just ain't hanging out with people that are like legends, you know what I mean? Like you making it out like we just bullshitting with people from school or something. And he's like, well, I get where you're coming from, but like, they wanted to come, so I told them to come hang out. So I'm sitting here at 11:30 at night in the Wendy's parking lot eating spicy nugs, talking to Jeff Hardy about wrestling, talking to Matt Hardy, like about just, it was an insane moment of just like, how the hell did I get here? Like, what is going on? Like, because I mean, I know people think, they say, damn, you're around the Hardys a lot. But once again, you factor in, I live in North Carolina, I see the Hardys quite a bit. And it's like, when opportunity takes place, then I'm there. Like I told you, a lot of my stories are being in the right place at the right time.
Right. And I mean, they do still live there. I mean, it's not like, oh, they went to move to Florida. It's they legitimately still live there. So it's not out of the realm of possibilities that you would be seeing them.
The last crazy story that I have is probably one of the most recent ones. And this one's not so much crazy as it is just like, how did I get here kind of moments. I went to do last year at WrestleCade. My trainer at Firestar told me, hey, there are the guy who is doing the WrestleCade stuff is wanting to get some people to come help out. If you're interested, let me know. And I said, well, bet, it'll be a 3-day event. I'll be surrounded by a bunch of wrestlers. It'll be fun. And a lot of the people are my buddies, so I get to go hang out with my friends. So I go and I say, yeah, I'll do it. Sign me up. So I go over there, I show up, I do the security stuff. Well, next thing you know, they put me at this door and they say, "Hey, you're going to be assigned here. We need you here." I'm like, "Okay." And next thing you know, they're putting me as the security guy for Ric Flair's contracts or his signing for his autograph stuff.
Oh, wow.
So like all his autograph signing, I'm the guy at the door making sure people ain't trying to come in and leave, like doing all this stuff. Well, that in itself is kind of cool because, like, think about how Ric Flair is. Think about how much of a legend Ric Flair is, and I'm sitting here being the security guard for it. But that's not the cool part of the story. The cool part of the story is I'm sitting here doing the security guard stuff. Next thing I know, he decides he's going to get up, doesn't tell anybody anything, gets up, decides he's going to take a walk around the entire convention center. He's going to take the escalator up to the stairs. He's going to go over to all these tables, talk to Sergeant Slaughter, talk to, like all these people on all these tables. So he's over here bullshitting with, all these people, like going over talking to the Dudley boys, going over talking to the Hardy boys, like just, and he's decided he's going to walk this entire convention center. Well, of course, me being the security guard, I'm thinking, well, am I supposed to stay here at the room? And then he started going out of the room, and I was like, well, they told me to be security for Ric Flair. They didn't say secure the room, so I took it as I'm going to walk around with him and make sure that, people ain't coming up to him, like trying to touch him and stuff that ain't supposed to and everything else. So I'm over here walking Ric Flair around this entire convention center. And, like, people are wooing, and it's just, it sounds like a bullshit story. It sounds like, oh, man, you're just being stupid. But in reality, it's like when you think about it from a wrestler standpoint, that you are so over with the crowd that you walk through a convention center and hundreds of fans woo for you because that was your thing in wrestling. I'm sitting here looking, and I'm just looking at all these people, and I'm like, oh, my God, this dude is still this over. Like, everybody knows who he is. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was one of those moments for me where I said, one of these days, I want to be like that. I want people to know who I am to that level. I want to be able to go to an autograph signing and everybody in that fucking convention center know who I am. Like, that's insane. Excuse my language, but that's insane.
Yeah, no
worries. So those are definitely three of my top stories of like, definitely three of my top stories of like, how did this happen? So I try to give you a variety, give you a wrestling one, give you like a backstage one, and give you like a personal one.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, being security for Ric Flair, I can imagine it's like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, and that's how I felt about it, because I thought to myself, I said, I think back now and say, what if they wouldn't have assigned me at that door? Like, if they wouldn't have assigned me at that door, then what, who's to say that Ric Flair will still be here in next WrestleGate? You know what I mean? Like, he's up in age. There's no telling. And that might be the last at WrestleGate he does, because even if he's still alive this year, it ain't no guarantee he's going to be there. Because they change the guests out every year. So, like, for me, that was a moment of, like, you got this opportunity. You're going to have this story for the rest of your life. Nobody can take that away from you. So, that was the blessing.
Well, tell me if this is a crazy story or not. You actually rode to the ring on a motorcycle, no?
Yes, I did do that.
How did that come about?
So, with ACW, I was in the process of wrestling. I was in a storyline with Mark Hazard. We were doing this was like a full, like, main title story. This was like 8 months long. It was a long story that we had worked to, like, it was something we wanted to do to really establish who we were, establish the prestige on the championship, and to show that, we're going to take this, like, ACW's logo is changing the game. We wanted to change the game of wrestling. Like, we didn't want people thinking that this is just some regular indie show that every other place has. So the promoter's talking to me and telling me, like, hey, I want you to come up with some ideas to really stand out, go above and beyond, and as long as it's doable, we'll make it work. So I started thinking, and I have my motorcycle license, and I started thinking, and finally I said, well, you know what, like, I think it'd be really cool if we have me, like you go out there, open the big bay door, and then just have me ride in through the bay door, like pull it in there beside the crowd, park my motorcycle, get off. That's going to be like the most badass thing, in my mind. And he said, all right, let's do it. So I actually got it approved to do that. And the promoter goes out there, and everybody's, like, we're building it up. We're building it up. Like, they play my music. I don't come out. They're on the mic talking all this trash, saying, oh, yeah, see, CJ's not here tonight. He's scared. He knows he's going to lose that title, blah, 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 blah. Well, then the promoter comes out, and he gets on the microphone, and he was like, you're right. CJ didn't drive here in his car tonight. And everybody started booing. And he was like, but guess what? And then my new song hit. And everybody started cheering. And he was like, he's here now. And he opens that bay door. And I come riding in on that motorcycle. And everybody's just like, there's people standing. Like, there was like a dude in the crowd that like stood up and like high-fived me as I come in. Because he was just like, I just felt like I was the top of the world moment. Like it was the best thing ever at that moment. I felt like couldn't nobody touch me at that moment. Like, in the way I felt, now granted, obviously I tell people all the time, I'm very humble. I don't think that I'm better than anybody else, but I'm at the same time of being humble. I'm not going to take away anything that I've done or take away any of the effort or hard work that I've put in to grind to be where I'm at. So like, I am definitely humble, but at the same time, at that moment, I felt like I was top of the world.
But that was your motorcycle.
It was. That was my motorcycle.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And you would think, I thought afterwards, I really thought a lot of people were going to try to compare it to The Undertaker and try to say, oh, you're just ripping off American Badass. But nobody ever told me that. They were like, yep, that reminded me of The Undertaker, because I didn't do it the way that he did it. Like that's right. The key to wrestling is that in wrestling, there's only so many things you can do, because everything you've done, somebody somewhere has already done. Because right. Wrestling is constantly evolving. And the key to everything is that if you're going to do something, you need to make sure that you don't do it the same that somebody else did it. So like, am I going to come out there in like a bandana and sunglasses and leather and all this? Like, no, I don't want to rip The Undertaker off, but is coming out to the ring in a motorcycle at an indie show? Hey, he did it on WWE,
right.
Doing it on the indie show. Who expected that at an indie show? You know what I mean? Like, nobody expected that to happen.
No, absolutely. All right. Now, can you tell us about your tattoos and if there is any significant meaning behind them?
Yes. So I have like meaning behind every one of my tattoos. But the main ones I will tell you about are on my left arm, I have a date. It says 7/21/2018. That is the day that I debuted in professional wrestling. That is the day that was my first match in front of a crowd. It was not a training match at some center. That was the day that I debuted in front of people. It was 7/21/2018. Which once again, funny story, was actually coincidental. I wasn't supposed to debut that night, but once again, somebody called out of the show and they needed to fill a spot. And he looked at me and he was like, hey, CJ, you've been training. Do you feel comfortable doing a match? And I'm like, he was like, cool, you're going in the opening match tonight. And I'm like, all right. So that was how my debut went. If you go a little bit above that, I have a death moth that is purple and blue, because blue and purple are my two favorite colors. I have that above the date because death moths represent change and growth as a person. Like, it's kind of like a new chapter in your life. And I got that tattoo to represent the change of who I am and how CJ Evans is constantly evolving, to represent how CJ is constantly growing and changing, to show that I'm not going to be the same, that I'm going to evolve. And, as wrestling changes, I'm going to change with it. You go a little bit above that, you have vines and thorns coming around. The vines represent life and how you grow as a person. The thorns represent hardship and how you grow past them. Even though they're there, you still are able to move past it and carry on. You go over to, I have two roses on that same arm, that one represents my mom and one represents my granny, because my granny's not here anymore. And she was my mom and my granny were my two biggest supporters in pushing me for wrestling, telling me that I was, that I can do this, that I should do this if this is what my passion is. So that represented both of them. You go above that, I have a big Grim Reaper coming out to the side. That's just to represent death, because if you have life, you got to have death. So I have the Grim Reaper on my shoulder looking at me constantly because of how dangerous wrestling is. I could die from any move. I could be paralyzed. A lot of crazy stuff happens. So I always have that in reminder of like, hey, this isn't ballet. You could really get hurt. So just remember that. You move over to my chest. Coming out behind the Grim Reaper are birds, like ravens flying out from behind him. That is to represent freedom and the fact that I am allowed to do this because I have free range of who I am, of my character, of who I want to be, and I'm able to express that. So I put that in there. You move over to on my chest, I have a 13. The reason I have a 13 is because I actually got that on Friday the 13th at a tattoo shop. 13 is my favorite number because I think it's funny how everybody thinks that it's unlucky, but I feel like that everything in my life has happened because of being in the right place at the right time. So like I look at it as a sign of like, hey, it's, I feel like it's a lucky number to me. And because Friday the 13th was one of my favorite movies growing up, I love Jason. I still love Jason. So I got a 13 to represent that. You move over to my, I would say you go over to my other arm and I have like another skull with like a little Indian headdress. That's just because my family has Indian blood in them through like my mom's side of the family. So I did that as kind of like a representation of just like me coming from, like my family and stuff like that. You go over, you'll see a tree. I have like a moon behind the tree. Once again, that's because the long nights, long nights in wrestling. You're going to see a lot of moonlight. So that's kind of what I put the theme to go with that on. And that's, I have a couple wolves on my arm right now that look at each other. Those are just kind of represent because a wolf is my favorite animal. I also have a Siberian Husky as a dog, so it looks very similar to a Siberian Husky because that's my dog. I have them looking at each other because basically the tale of two wolves is that one wolf is angry and it's everything bad that represents you. That's like your anger, your resentment, your envy, your jealousy. The other wolf is everything that is good about you. So it's like your kindness, your loyalty, your respect. And then the wolf that wins that battle is the one that you feed. So if you feed into kindness and good stuff, then the good wolf's going to win and you're going to be more of a better person. But if you feed into the anger and resentment and jealousy, then the bad wolf's going to win because you're feeding into negativity. If you look on my back just has a big tribal that basically it's just like a big tribal piece that I got when I was younger that I thought looked cool. There's not a lot of meaning behind it other than I was like, hey, I just wanted a tribal. Like it was one of my first tattoos that I got, so I just wanted a tribal to test it out. And then that's when I started kind of like filling in the pieces on my arms.
I gotcha. Is there any plans for new ink in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm actually in the process of my back piece. I'm going to be changing around some of the stuff with the tribal to put like kind of like more of a design into it, to put like a little bit of like a Norse theme to it, because I love like Norse mythology and like Thor and Loki and stuff like that. I'm going to be putting in some cool stuff with that, implementing it into that tattoo. I'm also going to be adding in some more to my arms to I would like to get a tattoo to represent my son, because I actually just had a son this past February.
Congratulations.
And I want to get, thank you. I want to get something to represent him because, you know, once again, that's like a big life. I'm a big guy. Like I'm a very, anything in my life is very like, I like having stuff that has like value behind it. I don't look at value as money always. I look at it as like, does it mean something to me? Because there's a lot of stuff I have in my house that's not a lot of money. That's like, you know, like people have gave me gifts and stuff that like it might be like a little $10 pop figure or something, but because it has sentimental value with it, because like maybe the person that gave it to me is not here anymore or something like that, you know. So every time I see that, I think of that person. I think, man, like this person gave me that, and that's kind of what I'm a very sentimental type person. So I definitely will be getting more ink in the future and, you know, adding some stuff, changing some stuff around. It's just a matter of when I can find some time off of wrestling to actually get it, because I'm not going to go get a tattoo on my back and then have to go wrestle 2 nights later and it not heal up, because then it's like, then it's going to heal up wrong and it's not going to look good. And so I just rather, once I have like a break in wrestling where I have like 2 or 3 weeks off and I'm not doing anything, that's when I'll go and get that done.
I gotcha. What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
My favorite one is between, I love the one where he's underwater and they chain him underwater and he ends up coming back from that. I love that one. But my favorite, like, it's kind of a cheat, but my favorite, like this is my favorite Friday the 13th movie, is the one where it was Freddy versus Jason. So technically it wasn't Friday the 13th because it had Freddy in it as well, but that was my favorite one by far because I just love the way the movie was structured. I love the story with it, how like, you know, the people were running from Freddy and Jason and then they're fighting each other at the end of it. It was such a good movie. I really wish they would do a second one.
Maybe this is just a basic answer, but I still enjoyed the first one.
Oh yeah, the first one definitely is a good one. The biggest thing with that one is like I feel like it's kind of like the base of the story is what really gets everybody with that one, because people see that one and they're like, oh man, like I can't believe she was the killer, you know, like everybody expected it to be him. So it really, that one was one of those, like it was one of the first, I feel like, horror movies that really threw that plot twist in at the end.
Right.
And caught everybody off guard.
And I think that's what I like about the first one so much, because everybody knows Friday the 13th at this point. You know, everybody knows Jason. And the whole point of horror movies is to swerve people. So if you know going in that you're going to see Jason, but then you don't see Jason in that first movie, then it's a big swerve. And it's a swerve that people still to this day will fall for, because if they've never seen it, but they know, they're still going to know what Friday the 13th is, and Jason.
Absolutely.
And that's kind of why it's my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm all for anything that catches me off guard like that. I'm in the same boat as you. Like, I love to watch horror movies and not expect. Like, I love to be able to watch a movie and not guess what's going to happen at the end of the movie.
Right.
Like, I don't want to be able to watch the movie and say, oh, this guy will die, this girl will die, this dude will die, and then this girl will be the one to, like, walk away hurt, but she'll live, you know?
Right. You mentioned, you know, having a son this February. How has that changed your perspective on pro wrestling?
The only thing that has changed is that a lot of people told me when I was in the process of having my son, a lot of people told me that this is going to change a lot for you wrestling wise. And I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you're not going to have time to go to the shows. You're not going to have time to go to training. You're not going to have time to go to the gym. And it's not been like that at all. Everybody said that that's not going to happen. But the thing is that I feel like that's not going to happen for somebody that doesn't have a good support system. Like, I have a great support system at my home. My fiance supports me to the utmost. She supports me in everything that I do and pushes me to be the best version of myself that I can be. And when having my son, the biggest thing with him was, for me, a lot of people were saying that it was going to kind of like prevent me from being able to wrestle as much. But if anything, I feel like that it's been an encouragement for me to wrestle more, because I want him to grow up and look at me and think that, you know, Daddy's so good. I love Daddy. You know, I love watching Daddy wrestle. I love watching, you know, like maybe one day he wants to learn. And if he wants to learn how to wrestle, I'll do everything I can to make sure that he's taught properly, and maybe he can have a career in this. So if anything that has changed in my wrestling career, it would definitely be the fact of wanting it to be, you know, pushing myself harder to make sure that he has something to be proud of, and as motivation to be like, hey, I'm doing this for you, son. Like, I'm gonna make sure, like I'm gonna go out here and I'm gonna bust my ass at this show, and any money that I make, I'm gonna help pay for you. I'm gonna help pay for your food or your diapers or your clothes or anything. Like I literally, like I said, wrestling to me, some people look at wrestling as a hobby. Wrestling is not a hobby to me. And I'm not even going to say wrestling is a job. Wrestling is a passion. And I love it with every fiber of my being. And I promise you that when it comes to anything that, like, whether it's in my household, with my family, with my son, with my fiance, whatever, it's going to have wrestling. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
that's just, there's not a version of me without wrestling. That doesn't exist.
All right. I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say that they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
I feel like one of the songs would be "The Wolf" by Whiskey Myers, because that was like a song that I used in wrestling for a long time. I used it as a, you know, it was like my theme song for a long time, because the song, if you listen to the lyrics of it, really fit who I am as a character, and it played into the show that you see. Like, you know, it wasn't just like people could listen to that song and say, man, this song, it's like one of those moments when you watch people on WWE and their song just fits them, and you're just like, oh man, voices just fits Randy Orton so good. That's how it was with me. It's like the Wolf just fits CJ so good. So that's one. Another one would be Chosen One by Valley of Wolves, because that one is basically a song about how nothing's good. Like, in the song it says, ain't nothing gonna stop this fire. Basically what that is that song just means a lot to me, because it feels like that, like, I feel like that even though I've had so many doubts and I've had so many people try to put me down throughout my wrestling career, and I've had so many highs and lows, I feel like that one shows that, like, hey, you're not going to stop this. You're not going to prevent me from doing what I love to do. So that song really kind of represents me more, like, I guess, mentally and emotionally than it does physically. But regardless, the song would still be, you know, in the 3. And then the last one, oh, let's see. The last one's tough. I would say maybe dang. There's one song on my playlist that I listen to, and it's by Nefix. And I'm trying to remember the name of the song, but it's very upbeat, and it says at the beginning, it's like, you're never going to make this, you're not good enough, there's a million other people with the same stuff, you know, you really think you're different, but you must be missing. You like, it goes into this whole like beat, and then like basically the song, he's like rapping back with him, saying like, who are you to tell me what to do? I don't give a damn if you disapprove, blah 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 blah. And like, that song represents me really well, because that's how my brain processes some things in wrestling. Like, anybody that knows me knows that I am my own biggest critique, and like I criticize the living shit out of all of my wrestling matches. Like, can't nobody tell me, like, there ain't nothing you can tell me that I don't beat myself up over more, and I will literally like put myself into like depressive states because of like feeling like, man, I messed up these three little things I messed up, and I'm just gonna feel like a worthless piece of crap wrestler. And that song really plays into that element, because it's basically battling with himself of like, these people are saying like, oh, you're not good enough, but then you're fighting back saying like at the end, it's like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove you wrong. I'm going to, I'm going to stand up and be what I got to be. And like that one plays really into my mentality with wrestling as well.
All right. A solid 3 picks to say the least. Now that we have the soundtrack down, everybody knows you get the soundtrack first, then you write the script, and then you go to casting. Who plays you, and you can't sing yourself because you are obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo?
So somebody's got to play me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I get compared to this guy a lot, but the top 2 people that I feel like would have to play me would either be Sean William Scott, because people have compared me to him forever. Like just his sense of humor, my sense of humor, we're both very sarcastic, witty people. I feel like he would be one guy that could play me and represent me very well. Chris Evans is another one that I feel like could play me and represent me very well, because the way that he is, like, more so him in Captain America than other stuff that he's played in, but like the moments in Captain America where like he's getting the hell beat out of him, and then like this guy's like, have you had enough yet? He's like, wipes his mouth, I can do this all day. Like that kind of witty banter back is how my mentality is. So I feel like that would represent me into a video form very well. So I think he would be really good at I feel like him as playing as me, I feel like that would look really good.
Okay. Now, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you in your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Well, I definitely would say, I feel like I would have to pick 3 people. I want to say somebody like my family, but I don't want to put my family in it because I feel like that this is more wrestling related. So I would probably say I would have to pick 2 other people in wrestling that I'm constantly with all the time. So that makes me want to say like Jack and Cece, or Jack and Jared almost, because I'm with them all the time. So it's like if you see me, I feel like you most of the time see them. If I threw in somebody else, I have a buddy of mine that I'm like, I have 2 friends of mine that are actually really good friends of mine that I wrestle with, and they're both 2 of my best friends. On top of Jack is Travis Weaver and Chris Chaos. Both of them are 2 of my favorite people in the world. I love them with like my whole heart because they helped me so much as a wrestler, as a person, as a man. So if I'm gonna pick 3, I'm gonna say Jack, Travis, and Chris. To be fair, that way I want to do CC and Jared, but it's like I'm gonna pick one person out of Infamous and then put 2 other people. So for Travis, he's very country, he's very tall, he's also a wrestler, but I feel like if somebody was gonna play him, does the person playing him have to be alive or dead?
They could be
matter.
dead. CGI is a thing, and we have unlimited budget, so yeah.
I think Bruiser Brody could play Travis, because Travis he looks very similar in the mindset. He's very similar in the ring. And even though I don't know Bruiser Brody as a person, I feel like that he could play him to like look wise. Because like I said, Travis is he's such a like standalone person. It would be hard to pick an actor for him. For Chris Chaos, it would have to be somebody ginger, because he's ginger. So it would have to be a ginger actor, and I'm trying to think. The only person I'm popping in my mind as ginger off the top of my head is Seth Green, but I don't think Seth Green would play him. Let's see. Chris would be played by that's a tough one. Chris is he's like outgoing. He really big into anime, really big into Dragon Ball Z, really big into, let me think. He's really big into like video games and stuff. I would say maybe like Chris Hemsworth, but if Chris Hemsworth was ginger, like, I mean, if they're an actor, they can change their hair color and all that stuff, but like
Right.
short hair Chris Hemsworth, like he's just the right amount of funny, but just the right amount of serious to be Chris.
Add some
Like,
freckles and you're good to go.
you say what?
Add some freckles and you're ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I mean, he's the same, like the way that Chris Hemsworth, like you see these backstage segments with him, like how funny he is, but then how serious he can be. That's how Chris Chaos is. Chris can be very serious and be like, you know, like in your face kind of, but then he can also be very funny, chill, and relaxed. So like, I feel like he would play really well with that character. Then last one is Jack, and Jack is the hardest by far to pick somebody to play as him, because Jack is so crazy and funny that it's like, for me to try to pick somebody to play as Jack is like, Jack's so much of his own person, it's so hard to say like, oh yeah, this person would play Jack. So I feel like you said that I can't pick myself because I'm doing a cameo in it, but I feel like Jack would play as himself, and the reason I say that is because his gimmick is literally the Jak Tatum. Like, that's his nickname, is the Jak Tatum. So like, I feel like it is on par to be like, yep, Jack would play as himself.
And I will accept that answer as well. And I'm sure he'd appreciate it as well, you know, being in a movie with Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth as well.
Yeah, for sure.
This is sounding like a great movie, a blockbuster to say the least, and you could pre-order the tickets now. Alright, on to a controversial subject, pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I don't mind it personally. I mean, now, is it something that I eat all the time? No. But I will occasionally, like, once in a while, I'll take a hankering and just want pineapple on pizza. But most of the time, I'm more of like a thin crust, meat lovers kind of guy. But like I said, I mean, I don't mind pineapple on it. It's just if I'm in the mood to eat it.
I gotcha. So, leaning a little bit more towards pro-pineapple than anti.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I don't eat it all the time, but I mean, I'm not against it. Like, I'm not one of those people that's just like, oh, screw that.
What's your spirit Pokemon?
So that's actually funny you asked that, because like, I love Pokemon. I'm not as like into it as some other people, but I definitely am like a huge fan of Pokemon. I would say for me, it would either be Lucario, Mimikyu, or possibly there's like one more and I'm trying to think of what it is. I know most people pick like the basics, like, oh, I'm Pikachu, or oh, I'm Charizard. Like, I'm not that. I would be like, I like Lucario because of like his fighting style. I like Mimikyu because I love ghost type Pokemon. Like, I love just about every ghost type Pokemon. The other one is, I'm trying to think. I had it the other day. I'm trying to think of what it is. The Infernape, the one that's like the wrestler. He's like one of the starter Pokemon. He's a wrestler, but he's like he's a monkey that like evolves and ends up getting like the title belt, and like all of his moves in the game are like, you know, based on like wrestling moves. That would be the one I would pick.
Okay. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? T-H-U-G.
T-H-U. I don't. I'll be honest with you. I don't know off the top of my head. I know Tracy, and I've heard a lot of stories about him, especially with I've listened to other podcasts with people talking about, you know, them getting in the business and how much Tracy had done for them. Because, I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about the guy, but I don't know the acronym.
Well, I'll spell it out for you. T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail, 'cause a Doug can't spell.
Damn.
Yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers. We're trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things about him, because I've actually was listening to a podcast the other day about they were actually talking about Tracy, saying that like when they got into wrestling, they, Tracy took them under their wing and actually took him and like actually picked him up, took him on this like 2-week wrestling like road trip, and like showed him, paid for everything for him, showed him so much stuff, and like it. I remember listening to that on a podcast, like one of my wrestling podcasts that I listened to, and I was just like, man, if somebody like somebody at that caliber takes you under their wing like that to show you so much stuff, that's just a genuinely good person in the wrestling world. And I feel like, from my perspective, I want to leave wrestling better than I found it, so I can have nothing but respect for that.
Oh yeah. We've had the privilege of having some really great Tracy Smothers stories on the show. Even had one of his wrestling daughters on Mickey Knuckles as well. So, yeah, whenever we could get a good Tracy Smothers story, we're for it here.
Oh, awesome.
Weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you why. There's 3 reasons. I told you earlier that I love taking on challenges. And I will do, like, I know if you sit here and say, like, oh man, CJ's going to wrestle this Rock, and like, you're going to think, that's not going to happen. That's going to be, how is he going to do that? And because you instantly think that, I'm going to sit there and have to prove you wrong, because because in the wrestling world, we have there's like, sometimes they'll do this like psychology class, and they'll tell you like, hey, you're going to wrestle a broomstick tonight. And you're like, what? And they actually put a broomstick in the ring, and you have to fight this broomstick, and you have to do it in front of your coach. Now, I've seen this done. I've seen people have to do this. You've had to wrestle a broomstick. And the mentality behind it is, how am I supposed to do this if it's not a real person? This is just an object. But the thing is that the reason it means so much is because wrestling is so much like, people, they've said it before. Wrestling is what you do between the moves. Wrestling is what you do between the moves. And the thing is that I genuinely think, yes, I could fight a Rock. And now, is it going to be a 5-star classic? No. But can I do it? Absolutely. Would you be entertained by it? Absolutely. Would you pay money to see it? That's debatable, because I have some fans that are diehard fans of mine, and I feel like they might say, you know what, here's $10. I want to see you beat the shit out of this Rock.
Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
Damn.
Yes.
That's pretty impressive.
On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
My goal is to be signed to a major company in 5 years. But wrestling has a funny way of being unpredictable and card subject to change. So I'm not going to say that I don't know if that will happen, but that's where I look to be. In 5 years, I would hope to be signed on a major contract somewhere, whether it be TNA, Ring of Honor, AEW, WWE, New Japan. I don't really care. I'm not picky. As long as wrestling is paying my bills and it is my job, I would be okay with it.
I gotcha. And what is one of your matches that you would recommend people watch that best shows off you as a pro wrestler?
Well, I'll give you 2, because we talked earlier about the singles and we talked earlier about the tag. So I'm going to have to pick 2. The one that would show best as the tag would actually be this match that me and Jak Tatum just had this past week on this past Friday at Rec Room in Southern Pines. Me and him had a tag team match for our championships against Elliot Shock and Sonny De La Vega. We had a phenomenal match. I usually am the first one to criticize my matches and tear it to pieces. This match I was actually very proud of. I was very thankful for, and it really showed what me and Jak Tatum can do as a tag team. It showed how good we are together. It showed how much chemistry we have, and it showed that we are on the same page constantly. So, and it also showed that not only were we out there wrestling, but we were having fun, and that's what wrestling's about, is having fun. So that would be the one I would recommend people watch. It's like, if you want to see me have a really good tag team match, that would be one I would watch. If you want to see me have a really good singles match, one of them would be the one I had with Jackson Drake. I wrestled Jackson Drake back in January of this year and had a really good match with him. So that would be one match I would recommend. Or there's another one that I had that I did a match with Chris Young at the Rec Room in Southern Pines. And me and him did like more of like a New Japan style match where it was like very hard hitting strikes. You know, it showed that like emotion story of like neither one of us want to give up. And that one I felt like really resonated well on camera. So those would be my picks out of ones I've had so far.
And can we find these matches on YouTube?
You can definitely find the one of me and Jackson Drake. You can definitely find the one of me and Chris Young. The one of me and Jack versus Elliot and Sonny De La Vega, that one hasn't been posted yet because I haven't got the footage. But as soon as I get the footage, I'm going to upload it to my YouTube.
Perfect. So the other two matches are on your YouTube.
Me and Chris Young is on my YouTube, and the other one is on the promotion that booked me and Jack. So if you just type in CJ Evans versus Jackson Drake, it's under their YouTube because they were the ones that posted it. But it's got like several thousand views on it, so it'll probably be one of the top ones that pop up.
Perfect. I will go into YouTube and I will find those matches, and I will put a link to them in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. For anybody that hasn't seen them, wants to see them, wants to re-see them after this interview, and whenever you do upload the other match, I will update the video with that match as well.
For sure, and you have my contact information on here. After you watch the matches, I'd love for you to tell me what you think. Let me know if you like it, dislike it, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it.
Yeah, give the man some critique. And since we are nearing the conclusion of the interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom. This is our speed round, or bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
AJ Styles.
Worst wrestler.
Logan Paul.
Your main event in WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Preferably AJ Styles.
If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
I want to come out to Jeff Hardy's No More Words.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
alive, but hard to keep up.
We would have also accepted tastes great on toast. Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
I count it as a vegetable.
You count it as a vegetable, but is it actually a vegetable?
I mean, to me, yes. To other people, I know it's like tomatoes. You know, some people say tomatoes are a fruit, but the way I am is I believe it's a vegetable. I believe a squash is a vegetable because I believe fruit is supposed to be more of like a sweet taste other than like lemons. And so I count it as a bit more of a vegetable personally, but that's just my personal preference.
Well, as you probably already know, it is a fruit. It's the same logic as tomato. It has seeds, so it's classified as a fruit.
I got you.
but you're part of Squash Squad now, and that means a hell of a lot more.
Awesome.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
I personally feel like that when you do your gear, it shouldn't be no more than kind of like the biker shorts. Like, I don't mind like the tighty whitey style tights on some people, but like for me personally, I would never go shorter than biker shorts. Like, I like like the TNA AJ Styles biker shorts that like went like a little bit below down his thigh.
Yeah.
That's about as long. That's about as short as I personally would go. And like I said, some people, I don't mind the tighty whities, but I can't personally do them, because to me, I just don't want my legs being I don't want that much of my legs being shown, because I like, as much as we have like in wrestling, like getting like, mat burn and stuff like that, I just can't do it. And plus, I don't want to shave my legs. Like, I don't want to shave my legs like before every show, because I mean, you factor in I'm wrestling 2-3 times in a week. Like, I would have to shave my legs 2 or 3 times a week, and that would be a pain in the butt.
Okay, so full coverage.
Yep. Like I said, I mean, I could do biker shorts, and that's probably that's for me, that's the length you get into.
All right. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
I feel like I have. But I think that it was a scenario where, so it was a stranger to me. They knew who I was, but I didn't know who they were, but they had seen me from a show, and they come up to me in Walmart, and they were actually asking me about, like, what were my upcoming shows and stuff like that. And I was going into details about it. And like, then they asked me, it was right around the time that Sting did his retirement, like his retirement match in Greensboro. And they actually brought that up and was like, oh, Sting's doing his retirement in Greensboro. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to it, because I actually bought tickets to that show. And they actually said, yeah, I wonder if him and, that he didn't specifically talk about Darby, but he did bring up Darby during the conversation. Like, I wonder if him and Darby are how they're going to do this tag match with it being his retirement match. So, I mean, if that counts, that's kind of like the closest I got.
Was you in the produce aisle? Was you in the market area of Walmart?
I was in the food section, but it was like I believe it was the cereal aisle. It was either the cereal aisle or the drink aisle.
Then I will accept that answer. And that is the correct answer.
So yep, that happened.
And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking the time to have me.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find you on social media and merchandise?
So you can find me on all my social media. So Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube is CJ Evans Pro. If you want to buy any of my merch, then like I said, you can message me personally on like my Facebook, my Instagram, whatever. Or you can meet up with me at a show, talk to me. We'll have a conversation at the table and everything. I have trading cards, I have T-shirts, I have koozies, I have stickers, I have mystery bags. I have all kind of stuff like that. So I'd love to see you come up to a show. And honestly, I really would like somebody to come up to me and say, "Hey, I heard you on Wrestling with Entertainment's podcast, and that's where I heard about you. So I came to one of your shows and I wanted to get one of your T-shirts," because I would love to have somebody come up and be like, "Yeah, I heard you on this podcast," and so that definitely that'd be awesome. But yeah, CJ Evans Pro.
Hell yeah. And if you're not in the North Carolina area, definitely DM him on Facebook or Instagram and say, "Hey, I listened to Wrestling Wit. I want a T-shirt. Ship it."
Absolutely, we can get it mailed to you. That's not a problem.
And you don't have to type it into your Google machines. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Give him a damn follow. And buy a damn short.
I do have a link tree, so it makes it even easier. All you gotta do is click on the link tree, and it'll show you a link to every one of my socials.
And that makes life so much easier. You don't know how appreciated that actually is. Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. This was sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling what, you say entertainment, okay?
Alright.
For our special guest, CJ Evans, Calico Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment, baby.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.